Hello, this is Keir from XenForo. Forums have come a long way since the early days of bulletin boards that required you to dial in with a 56k modem. These days, forums have become a major repository for the knowledge of the internet, used by a huge range of organisations, companies and individuals for all sorts of purposes, and helps along with rich media and engaging discussion. One of the reasons why forums have grown beyond themselves is the resourcefulness of forum owners and administrators who've taken the basic structure of forums containing threads made up of posts and repurposed that structure into a wide variety of content and discussion types. A quick scan of our own XenForo community forums reveals a wealth of distinct uses for the basic discussion thread. In the Have You Seen forum, we post what are essentially articles that people will read, and once they've read the complete content, they'll then add their own comments. We also have a suggestions forum where people will post their ideas or suggestions, and then other users, having read the idea, will vote for it by clicking on the like control. We also have a questions forum where people who want to get an answer to a particular query can post, and then hopefully someone will answer them. But you start to see the problem. If someone posts a question, there's nothing programmatically to distinguish it from a simple chat thread. So how do we know whether or not something has had a satisfactory answer? Let's start by talking about questions. In a regular discussion thread, there's no way of distinguishing between a good answer and a bad answer to a question. But with XenForo 2.2, every response to the initial question has the ability to be voted up or down. Being voted down is an option that can be disabled from the control panel if you really want to, so that you could only ever have positive voting. But as you can see from here, I've got positive and negative voting enabled, and this particular post has had 2 positive votes, and these 2 have both had 1 negative, and this one has had no vote at all. But let's add 1 in there, and we can see that the total updates. We can now sort either by date, which is the default for discussion threads, or we can sort by votes, and in that way the best answer in terms of votes bubbles to the top of the list. When I go to the second page, you'll notice that the original question is still at the top of the page, and this is one of the behaviours that question threads have that is distinct from discussion threads. The question will always remain at the top of every single page, so you never lose track of what the original question was. And finally, the original poster has the ability to select what they consider to be the solution. Now, I'm an administrator of this board, so I also get that ability, so let's set this option here as the solution. And when I do that, then the solution, the accepted answer, will appear at the top next to the question in every single page. We can jump back down to the original location of that post. If I sort by date again, then as you may remember, that post came from the second page. So let's hit view full post, and it'll jump us down to where it came from on the second page. Question threads, of course, belong within question forums. And the first thing you'll notice about a question forum is this set of tabs along the header bar, which allows you to very quickly filter down to see popular questions or the newest questions, or importantly, things that are unanswered or unsolved. Anything that has a solution would not show up in here. Of course, we could also show any that we've answered ourselves. Finally, on the questions front, the number of solutions that any member has contributed is now tracked, solutions being those replies that a member has made to a question that have been selected as the best answer or the solution to the question. We track those numbers now, and we've added a new section to the notable members section of the members list, and you can see here that Mr. Visitor has had 2 of his answers selected as solutions, which puts him ahead in the list of these other 3 members who've only had 1 selected. The next thread type to talk about would be the article type. In article type threads, we treat the first post as the article itself, and as such, we allow it a higher limit for the number of characters, media inserts, and attachments to allow you to fully express yourself in authoring your article. We also changed the styling of the first post to make it look less like a forum post and more like an article. Now, obviously, I'm sure that there are going to be plenty of styles out there that will do far more with it than we have here, but what we've done in the default is, in order to make it look familiar and easy to restyle, we've taken the user information that's usually stuck to the left of a forum post and we've moved it underneath the article to de-emphasize it and give it a distinction from the comments which are put underneath. Now remember, each one of these comments is a full-fledged forum post. So all of the usual tools that we have at our disposal for forum posts, the spam controls, reporting, warnings, reactions, multi-quote, all of those things are still there. This is not a cobbled together content type. These are forum posts. And as such, anything that you would be able to do with a forum post, you can do with comments and also with the article itself. If I click on to page 2 of the comments, you'll see that we've jumped straight down to the comments, but up at the top of the page is the article again. We keep it stuck to the top of the page, although on pages after the first one, we collapse it up so that it doesn't take up lots of room. But anytime you want to refer back to it, we can click it and expand it up. Just as question threads belong within question forums, article threads belong within article forums. And if we go and view the article forum that this particular article lives in, you'll see that at the moment it looks just like any other discussion thread forum. But we have another tool that we can use here. We can switch it over to the expanded view, which gives us the ability to show expanded article snippets on the forum listing page. Let's give it a limit of 500 characters and save that out and see what we get. When we bring that up again now, we get these snippets of the individual articles with a link to the full article. And we show the number of replies and the various other bits and pieces, but fundamentally it's an article view rather than forum view. This is of course intended for styles to be able to really go to town on turning this into something that can be customized for every available forum out there. The next thread type to talk about is the suggestion type. In the previous example we gave from the suggestion forums at XenForo.com, we encourage people to vote by liking a particular post, but just because a post is likable doesn't mean that it's necessarily a good idea for implementation or that you support it as a suggestion. So the XenForo 2.2 suggestion type offers a brand new content voting system. In the same way as question types can have votes for answers, with the suggestion type, rather than voting for the subsequent post, you vote for the first post. So here's a vote for this particular suggestion. I'm going to click it and increase its vote number to 3. And now I can go back up to the suggestion forum and see how many suggestions various things have got. And I can use the filtering and sorting types up at the top here to filter and sort down to the most popular suggestions. You can see that this particular one is looking very popular with my test data, the newest suggestions, and the ones where I've voted. Now, suggestion types go together. You can't have a suggestion thread living outside of a suggestion forum, but that's not true for the other content types. The final forum type is the general discussion type, which is the type of forum that we've all been using before. When we go into creating a new forum, we have the option for these other types, but when we were developing this feature, we figured that it would be quite limiting if we only allowed articles in article forums, we only allowed questions in question forums, because we know that lots of our customers have existing forums where their articles and their questions and their discussions are all intermingled into one single forum. So, while you have to have questions in a question forum if you want to employ that special filtering system on the forum list that I showed you, or the expanded article view, there is nothing to stop you having those content types sitting within a discussion forum. Let's take a look at what that looks like. We now have these 3 options here to add in these additional types. Now, polls is now treated as a special kind of thread type. I haven't really talked about that because you know all about polls already. But articles and questions are now added as additional allowed thread types. Let's take a look at an existing forum I've got here, which has already got some content in it. And I'm going to turn on articles and questions and allow answer voting and allow answers to be given to votable questions to be downvoted. And then I'm going to save that out. And what that gives me when I go to post a thread is the option to post either a discussion or a poll or an article or a question into our discussion forum. Now, discussions we know all about. Polls, just a slight interface change from before, where it's now more obvious that you're posting a poll, whereas previously the poll seemed to be just tacked on to the end of the form. Now it's quite obvious that we're going to be creating a poll, and that's the purpose of this thread. We also have the article tab and the question tab, and you can see that the interface is changing to show the relevant parts for each type as we do it. So let's go ahead and post a question into this newly created discussion forum. Let's start off by asking, what is the answer? And now I want to make it a question, which pops up the options for questions. So let's just say that we do want to allow questions to be answered, and we don't want to pause the voting. So let's create that and go and take a look at it. You can see that because this is sitting within a discussion forum, it looks just like a regular discussion. And when we go into it, we get all of the usual facilities for a question forum. So I don't actually have an answer yet, so let's make an answer up. And then anyone who visited after that with the appropriate permissions could then vote for this stuff. Obviously I can't vote for it because it's me, but because I'm an administrator I can mark that as the solution. Now it's worth noting at this point that it's possible to move threads of different types between forums which support different thread types themselves. So let's take, for example, a suggestion. A suggestion can only exist within a suggestion forum. So if I take this particular thread and attempt to move it into a forum that doesn't support suggestions, I will get a prompt that tells me that if I were to move this, then I will lose the special custom behaviors that apply to suggestions. So let's do it anyway and see what happens. Now that it's moved into the question forum, it's become a question. And anything that I answer here will now become an answer to this as a question. Let's try another one. Let's try moving a question into a discussion forum. Let's take this thread, which is a question and it's solved, and we will move it into the discussion forum. Now, if you recall the discussion forum that I had set up, it supports questions. So when I hit save on that, it will move into the discussions forum and it will remain a question. But what happens if I move a question into a forum that doesn't support questions? Well, let's turn it into a forum that doesn't support questions. I'll save that out. Now, you will note that anything that was a question before I turned that option off remains a question. However, I won't be able to create new question threads, and if I were to try to create additional questions, if I were to move a question into that forum now, it will be turned into something else. So let's move that into the discussion forum. Remember, the discussions forum does not support questions now. We get the same prompt about the change in behaviors. Let's do it. And now we find that it has converted itself into a regular discussion with no custom type at all. So I hope you found this little tour through the XenForo 2.2 forum and thread type system informative. We're really looking forward to continuing our development with this system. We feel that there's lots more that we can do. We've really only just scratched the surface of the forum and thread types that we can expose and the behaviors and customizations that we can apply to the existing types as well. It goes without saying that, as with all XenForo core features, This system is built to be fully extensible, so I'm sure you're going to see some third-party additions and modifications, and even some third-party thread types in their own right in the near future. And so for now, we're going to focus our attention on polishing off the rest of the outstanding tasks so that we can get XenForo 2.2 onto XenForo.com for you to all play with. And shortly after that, hopefully there'll be a public beta. Slick.